on the News Channel 5 network. This is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Beres here on a Tuesday. A good show on tap for you. You know, we're into December now, and we're getting closer to January. And for many of us, I don't know why it is, but it's the new year, so a lot of us maybe sometimes thinking about making lifestyle changes, you know, all that resolution crap. And, you know, sometimes I choose a resolution, sometimes I stick with it, sometimes I don't. But whatever the case, it's not a bad time maybe if you decide you want to make some changes in your health, diet, exercise, those types of habits. And you know, whether you're thinking that way or not, there are always little things you can do to improve your life. We're going to kind of talk about that this morning. You see, it's a very broad-based topic on the screen there. It says healthy living. It's always a good idea. Now, I know I could do a better job of it, but we're going to talk this morning about healthy living, but from a holistic point of view. A holistic health coach is going to join us this morning to talk a little bit about, you know, what alternatives are out there besides just some of the stuff where maybe you may be going to a doctor for certain things. Well, she's not a doctor, but she's going to talk about lifestyle changes you can make to improve the way you feel, and that's what it all comes down to. With us this morning is Holly Ladd.
Hey,
good
very
morning,
nice
Holly.
To see you. Thank
nice
you.
to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Well, listen, I always, you know, we've had lifestyle coaches on before, nutritionists. We have lots of doctors come on this program as well. But all right, it says here, now you are a holistic health coach here in town.
Yes.
What does holistic health coach mean?
Well, holistic implies that we're looking at more than just one aspect of somebody's life.
Okay.
So we take into consideration diet for sure, exercise, but things such as career, relationship, spirituality, and make sure that everything is working in line, because all those things impact how you feel and how your energy levels.
Whole everything.
Exactly, whole, a big. Exactly.
Well, and most of us are probably lacking in one of those aspects, one way or the other.
Absolutely. And
so,
you'd be surprised.
Oh, yeah, I can think about just what you were saying there. Now, what's interesting is a lot of the folks like yourself who decide to make this a career maybe started off themselves having a revelation that changed your life. Talk a little bit about, you know, what led you to this and how you became a coach.
Right.
After what you were going through.
Right. Well, about 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition.
Okay.
There's about probably 50 million of us in the country now that suffer from autoimmunes, anywhere from rheumatoid arthritis to Hashimoto's to there's probably over 80 different autoimmune conditions.
Okay.
So for
what are the symptoms like that go with that? I know it can vary. What did you have?
For me, it was extreme fatigue, brain fog, achy joints, achy skin. I knew something wasn't right, but I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And
had you always been that way, or as you were younger in your teen years and your body handled it, but eventually you reached a certain age where something clicked and you started feeling these symptoms?
Yeah, I mean, I always thought I was a pretty healthy person.
Okay.
Exercised, thought I ate pretty well, took care of myself. But you know, these things can linger and sort of build for 7 to 14 years, and whatever your trigger is can just sort of fester, so to speak. So I was fine until about 5 years ago, and then I just started feeling super tired, had no energy, hard to get through the day, hard to think straight, and finally I said, you know, I think I need to go to a doctor and figure this out. And sure enough, he's like, you've got this autoimmune condition and we need to treat you. So I sort of went at it. I believe in Western medicine, but I also believe in alternative approaches. So I went to a doctor in Massachusetts who sort of looked at my whole system, my whole body, and we got a full diagnosis as to some dietary sensitivities that I had to gluten, to dairy, a little bit to alcohol, unfortunately.
Okay. Were you smoking at the time?
No, never
no?
smoked. Never smoked. Grew up with a smoker, but you know, there's all sorts of factors that go into autoimmune and just into illness, chronic illness in general. So anyway, you think you're healthy, and then one day you're not. Yeah. And I decided that as soon as I got feeling better, it was my mission to go out and sort of spare other people what I went through. And you can sort of prevent all of this now by the choices that you make in your life.
How long did it take you when you started making the lifestyle change to feel better?
Probably about 6 months.
6 months, because you have to get it out of your system.
Yeah.
What was it, if you would, and I know it's going to be different for everyone, but what specifically did you kind of, you said, it sounds to me like you cut out all gluten products, which would be wheat, breads,
wheat,
things
rye,
like this,
beer,
right?
unfortunately.
A lot of beer has
Yep.
gluten in it, but and some people and gluten can be a thing. I tended to start easing out of gluten. I never had an issue with it. I believe that some people truly have a real problem with
Right.
gluten. And I believe other people can eat it and have no problems at all.
Absolutely.
All right, but for you, gluten, you took that out. That was a biggie, I would imagine.
That was a biggie.
What
Yep.
else?
I took out the gluten. I actually went vegan for a year,
Okay.
which was hard for me, but hey, healing is the foremost and utmost. So cut back on my alcohol, cut out the gluten, went vegan for a year, started meditating,
Okay.
doing some stress relief activities.
Yoga? You have yoga or just
Yoga, breathing,
Okay.
and sort of just sitting still in meditation.
what were you doing for a living at that point before?
I was a real estate agent, which
Okay, that can be a stressful
it
gig.
can be very stressful. Yeah. So for me, it was about managing stress as well. So I sort of, again, took it holistically, and 4 years later, have more energy than I did probably 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling great. So
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, if we can, just for folks, they'll start calling in, but I want them
Great.
to have an idea. Once you realize this is something you wanted to make a career for yourself, so aside from your experiences of healing yourself, what did you do to educate yourself? What are your qualifications?
Well, there's a school out there out of New York called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition.
Okay.
It's a year-long program, and we're trained by some of the top experts in the field, Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Andrew Weil, Dr. Joel Furman, Dr. Neil Bernard. I mean, the list of experts goes on and on
Sure.
and on and on. And, we sort of learn about hundreds of dietary theories, and we learned that everybody's different, like you said. Everybody is different. So what works for me may not work for you.
Right.
You may be able to eat gluten, I can't. So it's really working individually with people, one-on-one, and learning how to communicate with folks.
Yeah, so when
And-
you get with people, I mean, you have to get to know them. I mean,
do.
I'm sure you have questionnaires or you go through everything,
Absolutely.
what they do for a living. All right, the number is 737-7587, and we can take some of your calls as you go into this. And I'm just wondering, when you have a client that comes to you, what's usually the first thing? What do they really want? The first question. I mean, I don't know that they always come to you feeling as sick as you did initially when you went to the doctor, but what is it most clients, and I'm guessing, I think I know what they probably ask for, but what do they want most of all?
Well, let's see if you're right. Weight loss.
Yeah, I was going to say that I want to lose weight.
I want to lose weight.
But the key on that is losing weight in a healthy way.
Absolutely.
And it's such a struggle. And there's so many things out there. We've talked about that time and again on this show. And it's going to
Absolutely.
be different for different people. Now, did you
Absolutely.
lose a lot of weight when you went on this plan? You're fairly lean as it is now. Were you the same way?
A little bit. I mean, I probably lost about 10 pounds.
Okay.
But it was not my goal to lose weight. It was my goal to be healthy.
Okay.
And I think if you approach it that way, I try to tell clients, like, hey, instead of talking about weight loss, let's talk about health gain. You're going to gain health, and in gaining health, you'll probably lose weight.
Yeah.
So if you
That's
change
good.
the focus a little bit to something a little more positive,
And
I
it
think
works. They go hand in hand.
They do. They
Right.
do. So, and people tend to stress a little bit about weight loss. I'm not losing weight. I'm not losing weight, and that just adds to your weight gain because stress is involved in weight gain. So anyway. So weight loss is a big one, and also just more energy.
All right, listen, before we go to the break, let's squeeze in one caller so she doesn't have to wait through it. We'll go to Anna. Anna, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hey, Anna, what can we do for you?
Bill, I was wondering, I have always believed in holistic healing and what she's saying. I'm a diabetic. I've been a diabetic for 16 years. There was a time I was actually on insulin for 4 times a day.
Wow.
And finally I had surgery to help myself lose weight. But, several years after that, I started gaining that weight back a little bit at a time through stress and things like that. And I wanted to ask her, with me, I used to take a little bit of cinnamon during the day, and it would shoot my sugar sandwich. I'd take a stevia. I don't take a different type of substitute sugar because a lot of people don't realize that some of those substitute sugars will actually spike your insulin level. And so they do that. Also, I have another question. I was raised up real folklorish. My grandmother, she gave us catnip tea when we had a fever to bring it down, but she always knew how much to give. because you can't overdo it, because like she said, what's good for you may not be good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have clothes, crushed clothes, and people will come to me for my crushed clothes recipe for a toothache if it's just a toothache, not an infection.
Sure.
Because it could, be something different. So I always do that. And I always tell them, do not put this on a baby, because you don't know what a child can handle.
Yeah.
So I always say, do not give this to a child. And all it is crushed cloves and water, diluted in water with a little cotton you put right on the nerve. It tastes just like Orajel.
I love that. The things she just talked about, maybe you want to hit on a couple of them. And thank you for your call, because I'm with you, Anna. I mean, a lot of what she said. What I like about so much of it, she talked about stevia, which I want your take on that. Yeah. And then, cinnamon, and then the clove, which you hear sometimes clove oil can take away a toothache if it's not a badly infected. They're not bad side effects with those things, to me. I mean, yeah, if you way overdo it, yeah. But unlike pills you take that almost always come with some kind of crazy side effect, what she just talked about, and in the worst case scenario, it's not going to do anything for you. But it's not going to hurt you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I tend to agree with you, Nick. I always think nature first. I mean, nature has all of the things that we need. It's just knowing how to use it. And you're right, maybe it will work for you or it won't work. But
like
there's
stevia.
no harm in trying cinnamon or...
Yeah, stevia. Now, what do you think of stevia?
I think stevia is fine. You have to make sure you get stevia that hasn't been processed. So Truvia is a good brand.
Truvia. Okay, and what do you mean? Because, I use stevia. By the way, stevia, just so you know, there's all these other artificial sweeteners. Forget it, man. Don't do them. I don't think they're good for you. If you're going to go that way, just have regular sugar.
Yeah,
all right.
I agree.
But then stevia is a plant. I actually had a stevia plant growing in my backyard. I planted it just for kicks. You can pick the leaf, and it's sweet. Now, it's not the same as sugar, but it is natural, right?
It is natural, and you just want to make sure you get one. Sweet Leaf is another brand.
Okay.
They don't refine it, and they're not putting it through a bleaching process, and they're not putting chemicals on top of the natural stevia.
Okay,
So
great point.
You just want to make sure that you're getting a natural product, and ask the store, is this...
But it's a low-cal sweetener,
Absolutely.
too. Stevia is just as good as those artificial sweeteners in terms of it's not going to make you fat. You can have as much of that as you want.
Well, true, but let's...
I mean, there's not
also,
calories in it, right?
There's not calories in it, but, artificial sweeteners can make you fat.
Oh, okay.
So, you have to be careful. So.
Gotcha, a good point on that. But then cinnamon, too. You believe in cinnamon?
I think cinnamon is great. I use cinnamon. I put it on my oatmeal and
my
it's
toast.
Great. Turmeric, that's another great.
We'll get into turmeric in a second. I've got all kinds of questions for you. But Anna, thank you for your call. Listen, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll take more of your questions. 737-7587. Anything you're thinking of trying dietary-wise, or questions about, a lot of you I know out there like me at one point take a lot of medicines, pills that are prescribed to you. You don't want to come off them, but are there things you can do maybe to make yourself feel better so you can get off the pills? That's the key, man.
Yeah.
You do not want to take prescription drugs if you can avoid them. We'll take a break. I'll be back with more of your calls right after this.